Celebrating 49 years on the air, award-winning Farmweek is a production of Mississippi State University Extension.
Today on Farm Week and on the Farm Encore, a father-son dairy turned beef cattle operation. In Southern Gardening, Sweet Caroline, only this one has another side to her green personality. In the markets, a follow-up on our On the Farm Encore, how's it going so far? And back on the series, the conclusion, their beef cattle business came with a steep learning curve. Farm Week starts right now.
Hello everyone, I'm Zach Ashmore.
And I'm Mike Russell. Great to have you with us again here on Farm Week. This week, an encore from On the Farm, our Emmy-winning series on stress in agriculture. In this episode, we meet David and Will Gilmer of Sulligent, Alabama. Their dairy operation has been in the family almost too many years to count. But like many dairies across the South and around the country, for that matter, it all came crashing down.
Farm has been in the family several generations. I couldn't tell you how many years. We topped out milking on the milking herd around 230 cows. That was what we thought we could sustain, what with the cropland that we had, pasture land, cropland that was rented. Of course, you had the 230 milking cows, and then you probably backed up and you had another 130 young stock, coming on for replacements. So, that's, as far as numbers goes, that's about where we were when we maxed out. Five or 6 years ago, we did not like what the dairy business was becoming. Through no fault of our own, the dairy business just changed, and it was going to make it hard for a small operation to thrive. The profit and loss margin just kept getting smaller. Cost kept going up. What you got for the price of the milk did not go up in proportion.
There's a lot of challenges that dairy farmers in Mississippi and across the Southeast face. Most of them are economic challenges in terms of either facing lower revenue for the product, for the milk that they produce, but also the cost side is a huge story, especially right now. The cost of production is just really high. And so we've kind of seen some of these things pull together over the past few decades, and is leading to fewer dairies in our state and in our region.
If you were going to make anything, you made it off of volume, and we could not expand as far as being landlocked anymore. That's why we said, well, let's try our hand at beef cattle.
You want me to get in there?
We decided to start breeding our cows to beef bulls, Angus, and start raising a beef herd that way. You know, and there's been some growing pains with that. There's been a learning curve that we've had to kind of develop.
There's challenges in transitioning from dairy to beef because even though they're both cows, their nutritional needs are different. What you're trying to do with them is different. And so we have these years and years and years of managing cows in a certain way that now we're having to change how we did that. If we don't do it right, you know, we'll get in a world of hurt and it'll lead us into trouble.
There are a lot of challenges and stressful challenges from making the swap from dairy to beef cattle production. You know, a lot more focus goes into what type of calf will this cow produce? Is it going to gain enough weight? What are the nutritional requirements to ensure that that calf is able to grow and hit a target weight whenever you're going to sell it in the future? You're also looking for a really uniform calf crop, and so if you've got a group of cows, you're looking for them to calve at the same time and for their calves to all kind of look the same and be a similar weight.
The first bunch that calved in, we didn't supplement their feed or their, you know, what they were eating good enough. And these mamas being half Holsteins now, they were pouring the milk out and the calves were taking it and the calves they were booming and going, but the calves pulled too much body condition off of them. And so we were very slow getting them bred back. And ideally, I don't care if it's a dairy cow or a beef cow, you'd like for them to have a calf at least every 12 months. So our calving interval got to be about 18 months, and that's just not where we want it.
So the conversion to beef cattle hasn't come without serious setbacks. There are obviously some fundamental differences in the way the two operations work. More in Zach's market section and in the conclusion a little later in the show.
In Southern Gardening this week, not a Neil Diamond song, but a stunning, colorful vine guaranteed to catch your eye and be perfect in just about any landscape. Here's Eddie Smith.
Today on Southern Gardening, we're visiting the Truck Crops Experiment Station in Crystal Springs, Mississippi. A unique ornamental sweet potato vine caught my eye in their trial gardens. Let's take a look at this plant. Sweet Caroline Medusa Green Ornamental Sweet Potato Vine is a standout foliage plant known for its vibrant color, distinctive leaf shape, and compact growth habit. Unlike traditional ornamental sweet potato vines that tend to sprawl aggressively, this variety maintains a tidy, mounded form, making it perfect for containers, hanging baskets, window boxes, and garden borders. The deeply lobed, frilly leaves resemble a wild, tangled hairstyle, hence the name Medusa. Each leaf displays a brilliant lime green hue that holds up beautifully in full sun, giving the plant a bright, fresh appearance throughout the growing season. Growing 6 to 12 inches tall and spreading 18 to 24 inches wide, Sweet Caroline Medusa Green offers the perfect balance of controlled growth and garden impact. It also makes an excellent companion to colorful flowering annuals and provides a striking contrast alongside plants with colorful foliage. This plant's heat tolerance and tidy form make it a reliable and attractive choice to brighten up any summer landscape. I'm Eddie Smith, and I look forward to seeing you next time on Southern Gardening.
We'll take a break right here, but don't go away. Coming up, we conclude our encore episode of On the Farm. You met them before here on Farm Week. Longtime father and son dairy farmers David and Will Gilmer made the choice 6 years ago to get out of the dairy business. Costs were up, profit was down. They decided to try their hand at beef cattle. But as you'll see, the beef cattle business comes with its own challenges, including a steep learning curve. On the Farm concludes. That's coming up on Farm Week. Don't go away.
I believe in people and their hopes, their aspirations and their faith. I believed that education, of which extension work is an essential part, is basic in stimulating individual initiative, self-determination, and leadership. I believe that these are the keys to democracy, and that people, when given facts they understand, will act not only in their self-interest, but also in the interest of society. I believe in intellectual freedom to search for and present the truth without bias and with courteous tolerance towards the views of others. Because I believe these things, I am an extension professional.
I believe in people and their hopes, their aspirations, and their faith. I believe in my own work and in the opportunity I have to make my life useful to humanity. I believe that education is a lifelong process, and the greatest university is the home. That my success as a teacher is proportional to those qualities of mind and spirit that give me welcome entrance to the homes of the families that I serve. Because I believe these things, I am an extension professional.
Time for the market report. Finally, a turnaround in prices.
Looks like row crops going up a bit, and more on current cattle costs. But first, the numbers. What were the week's biggest gains and losses? And then we get a cattle farmer's perspective on the current markets. And finally, MSU livestock economist Dr. Josh Maples continues his talk on the cattle situation and the impact of New World screwworm. So, markets closed back on the upswing. Row crops getting the best of it while livestock split. Let's take a look. The week's biggest gain, corn up 22.5 cents, nearly a 6% increase from the previous week. The week's biggest loss, lumber, again, down 43 bucks again, more than a 6.5% decrease from the previous week. Earlier in the show, we talked about dairy farmers David and Will Gilmer and their conversion to beef cattle. We reached out to Will to get his thoughts on the current cattle markets, and it seems on the producer level, things are looking positive.
The process for cows, if you're running a cow-calf operation, it can kind of forgive some of the learning curve the way the market is right now. Just from a business standpoint, it just made a lot more business sense to make the transition over to beef and start in that direction and trying to invest the kind of money that we were going to have to do to keep our dairy maintaining at the level it was at while, the industry around us, the infrastructure continued to erode and whatnot. So that was a good decision. And then also just from a quality of life, I mean, it's not less work, but it's less demanding work, and so we're able to enjoy ourselves a little bit more than what we used to be able to. I would say probably the biggest impact that price has had on us was our original plan was with all of our half Holstein, half Angus heifers that we got from our dairy cows that we raised up to be our first, brood cows. Originally we wanted to cycle them pretty through and hurry up and get past our first generation, get into second and third generation, and replace some of those original cows with something with a bigger percentage of beef genetics. Well, the price of heifers has been so good that we've not replaced a lot of those original cows. We've just sold their heifers and gone on, and so the downside on that is those cows require more feed than a typical beef mama cow, just because they're bigger framed, they have higher nutrient requirements and whatnot. But they produce so much milk and grow such a big calf. I mean, it with the prices the way they are right now, we'd say that's a pretty good trade-off.
Now we continue Dr. Will Maples talking from a market analyst's perspective on how the cattle markets look currently, and just like with Will Gilmer, prices on the rise while demand still strong, especially for beef cattle and beef products. Dr. Maples gets into the details of why.
I think beef prices they're certainly higher now. They've continued to push higher because we've got tight beef supplies. We're not producing as much because we've got fewer cattle. So yeah, I mean, in the near term, I think we're going to see some stronger beef prices. And I would just throw out there that if you don't see stronger beef prices, given that you've got lower supplies, then you've got a demand problem. Because if supplies are lower and prices don't go up, then that means you've got some challenges on the beef demand side. And right now we don't really have those challenges, at least by not any large extent. So these stronger beef prices we're seeing really are just reflective of those really tight supplies and supplies getting even tighter. So I expect to see stronger beef prices 2025 and even into 2026 because of the low beef supplies that we have. Cattle prices have been increasing really over the last couple of years. You go back to really 2023 is what I would look at as kind of our transition year from a period of low prices into some stronger prices. 2024 was up, and then 2025 we pushed up even more. And I would argue over the last couple of months has been kind of the big jump. And so I do think this market is it's continuing to push to a level to when are producers going to expand? And producers are going to expand whenever prices are high enough that they want to produce that calf next year rather than sell that heifer this year or rather than sell that cull cow this year. And so it's all about producers' expectations of price in the future. And so I think that's one of the reasons we're seeing these stronger and stronger prices, because it's going to take those strong prices to lead to those expansion efforts that we're talking about. I do think New World screwworm, and even more specific, the closure of the border for cattle coming in from Mexico, I do think that is having impact on our prices, especially in the southern, you think Texas feedlots area, because we were bringing in over 1 million head of feeder cattle a year, and now we're not. And so that's a big deal, especially in a time like right now, whenever we've already got really tight feeder cattle supplies. So I do think that at least locally, that's boosted prices for feeder cattle and probably at the national level too. Anytime you take that many cattle out of the production system or out of the feedlot supply chain, we've certainly seen some stronger prices because of that.
And that's it for a deeper look into the markets. Looks like beef prices still competitive despite rising in supply and demand. That means supply doesn't meet demand. Mike?
Thanks, Zach. Now for the conclusion of this episode of On the Farm, seeing the writing on the wall, David and Will Gilmer made the decision long ago to convert from dairy to beef cattle. But with that conversion comes a learning curve.
There's so many production lags in beef cattle, and any amount of time that you fall behind really pushes back when you're going to earn revenue. And that's difficult from a lot of perspectives. In particular, it's difficult from a cash flow perspective. Managing cash flow is something that I would say is very different from dairy production to beef cattle production.
Even what it was, the milk check came every 2 weeks. Now the check from this beef operation only comes when we sell something, and we don't, we may go 2 or 3 months without selling anything. So yeah, you got to learn to kind of budget things a little bit more.
Are you thinking about it a lot? Just, hey, we gotta be hitting different numbers.
I think about it every time my wife gets on me about spending some money. You know, bank account's getting low. You're gonna have to sell some cows. Okay, well, I think about it then for sure. Or when I get a fertilizer bill or something other like that, you know, think about it. Don't think about it too long, because it's. I think it'd be bad for my mental health if I dwelt on it too much. And as far as paying off the note on on our loans, we've got enough animals we could cover the whole thing if we sold them all right now and have a little bit left over. But there we'll be sitting there with empty pastures, you know. And if you hadn't got something on, being productive, nature will take over and just be a mess, so to speak. So, the place will grow up and you won't be able to find it.
I think cattle producers, ag producers in general, think longer term than probably your normal person. I really do think that. I think they think in terms of generations about, I want to make sure that the family farm can survive into the next generation. And so I think they carry more stress because of that, because they're not just worried about, okay, what's the check gonna be this month? Or whenever I do sell the calves, what am I gonna get for my calves? There's these longer term stressors that really place a lot of pressure on producers to think about who's gonna take over the farm whenever I'm not farming.
I'm not gonna live forever, you know. I'm 68, I figure I got 5, 6, 7 more good years in me, but you know, just Father Time's gonna catch up at some point. And so, you know, as we're going right now, I don't really see one person handling what we're trying to do right now. I mean, yeah, you might be able to if you scale down. But if you scale down, I don't know if there's a living in it. So, you know, kind of worry about that.
As we're trying to, you know, navigate the waters of this whole new enterprise, you know, we are going to have to be really smart about how we do things. We have some flexibility that we didn't have with dairy and working with the beef cows, but it's not something we can be cavalier about. We have to make good business decisions about it, even as we're learning how best to manage those animals.
We just have to see how things progress. We're not making quite the same mistakes we did when we started out. We're still not real 100%. The next thing we really need to learn is a better marketing strategy. but you got to have numbers to do that, and we're trying to build our numbers. I've been conditioned, I guess, on account of the way this business is. You kind of live in the moment. You kind of plan ahead, but you live in the moment, and after that moment's over, you can't look back. You close that chapter and turn the page. See what's written on it.
One less dairy farm in the state of Alabama. Well, next time on Farm Week, the case of the Swamp Buster Challenge. Should you be able to do anything you want with your own land? A common question, and one farmer is suing the federal government to be able to do just that.
But it's a complicated wetland story based on a 40-year-old law that says otherwise, and other farmers are supporting the opposition.
Challenging the Swamp Buster rule next time on Farm Week.
Remember, if you missed a story, look for past episodes of Farm Week on our website at farmweek.tv.
And don't forget to follow us on Facebook and YouTube. See you next week. Thanks for watching.